Good afternoon, everybody. Dave here with your June 5th, 2025 afternoon rush. All your stories for your rush hour ride home. We've got more on Kylie Jenner as celebrity plastic surgeon gives a warning if you're going to go for the Kylie look. And speaking of the Kylie look, we got Kristen Cavaleri offering up some insider tea about her rendezvous with Glenn Powell. Sydney Sweeney, is this going to be enough action to get you to lock down your man? What am I even saying? I got those stories plus more on Wayne Gretzky having no idea who Chaperone is. And then 14 women's groups back Blake Lively. Unbelievable coordination happening. And what does this say about Justin Baldoni? What could be going through his head as they're turning this into a cultural moment where he's just trying to defend himself? We'll share all of those thoughts and then a little bit about the roast of Reality Steve, which he aired on his channel today. Of course, roasted him over the weekend. He deserved it for his 50th birthday. I got all these stories and more. It's all starting right now on The Rush. As you guys may already know, I am a Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney fanboy. They are better as they're together than they are divided, right? We love them. They've got that movie they did, which I watch every time I'm on a flight. But now we've got interesting tea coming out, both about Sydney Sweeney and about Glenn Powell, but it's not related. Again, I don't know. Should they be married or should they be siblings? They kind of look alike, but that kind of happens when you get married, right? You start to just bend and mold into the other person. Is that weird? All right, here's Sydney Sweeney. I'm going to share this clip. She's got a new bath product, a soap bar that is made out of, in part, water that she bathed in. Now, for those that actually take this seriously, oh, this is gross. It's clearly just a marketing ploy, right? Have a listen.
I have to ask you about your Dr. Squatch. And everyone is talking about. Tell me about that partnership.
I think that it's more fun to see everybody else talk about it.
How did the creative concept come to be?
I pitched it.
We also have to ask
there
you
it
about
is.
your...
All right, so Sydney Sweeney says she pitched it. She said, why don't I dip some toe into the batter before you make this soap? All right, hey, look, do what you got to do. She's got a viral bathwater soap that she's made. It's not exactly who's the Gwyneth Paltrow? Is she the one who made the hoo-ha candle? Either way, here's Kristen Cavaleri, and it's all tied together by Glenn Powell. She says she dry humped Glenn. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. Have a listen. Listen, normally you see these PR stories and they're so contrived and it's like, all right, Kristen Cavaleri as a single woman, she's got stories to tell. Have a listen.
She recently went on a date with... She's going to be so mad at me, actually.
Oh my God!
With Glenn Powell, and I wanted it to happen so bad!
So the crowd goes wild as Kristen Cavaleri does these live kiss and tell shows. Look, I'm all about it. Do what you got to do. So either way, and it's like, she's upset that he's sharing it live. I guess that's one of her besties. But isn't that what your gay best friend is for? Telling the world about your exploits? So then he goes, Top Gun, bitch. And he's got a point. Where's Glenn Powell? Geez, hello. Save some abs for the rest of us. This guy hasn't seen an Olive Garden in 20 years. Do you like Glenn Powell? I think he's a tall glass of milk, if you ask me. And I'm lactose intolerant, but I'd throw down. What? All right, here, let's finish this.
You're partying in Greece, and then Glenn just came up
Literally
to
ran into me.
And then you guys had a really fun night together.
I never him, just putting that out there.
You guys dry humped, though.
Yeah, we did.
Can you imagine if you're Googling your family for some reason and you find out your mom dry humped Glenn Powell? This is the problem as being an influencer and a celebrity, is your kids are going to see this someday, and then she's going to get remarried, and then the kid's going to be like, can we go to that new Top Gun movie? And then the husband's going to be like, well, so your mommy can dry hump Glenn Powell again? Listen, what you got to do? You got to live your life, you know what I mean? We're not going to shame the dry hump. Just be careful. If you're wearing denim, take appropriate measures. Dry humping works better in your pajamas, but who am I to offer advice? Okay, let's move. How do you transition from that story? Diddy Trial. No dry humping happening at the Diddy trial, as far as I'm concerned. Judge warns Diddy, stop mugging at jurors. So I guess what happened was they let the jurors take a break, and then the judge had to tell Diddy's defense, hey, quit looking at them. Yeah, I guess you're not allowed to really mug the jurors for in case they feel threatened. The judge threatened sanctions, including possibly barring Diddy from the courtroom. Specifically, the defense dug into the date that the person they were cross-examining provided. And then the defense argued Diddy couldn't have been in LA. So they're kind of like, and again, we're not going over the nitty gritty of this trial, although, there's plenty of other great content creators that are. We will be interviewing some to get some roundups. But either way, there were moments where Diddy was just staring at the jury, apparently. Maybe, he just wanted some human interaction. He's been stuck in jail for a few months and he's checking out the jurors. But after the testimony, jurors left for a break, and then the judge admonished Diddy's defense lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, for his client's courtroom behavior, pointing out Diddy was nodding vigorously while staring down jurors. Listen, as long as Diddy's not doing like the neck-cutting motion, but yeah, just you can't influence them. So we'll have to see what the jurors have to say. All right, the jury's out on Kylie Jenner's boobs. Now, I'm not starting this conversation. Kylie did. She tweeted, as we shared a few days ago, she tweeted a response to somebody who asked, hey, what's in the recipe? Let us know. And then she gave her a response, and it's gone absolutely viral. Well, here we have Terry Dubrow, who's a celebrity plastic surgeon, saying, hey, listen, get the boobs if you want, but just, be careful out there. It's like when you rent a sports car. It's like, if you don't know how to drive this thing, it's going to be kind of tough on the turns. Is that a good metaphor? Have a listen.
So I'm very happy that she's admitting to having that done. But I think a year ago, she said she regretted it. And then her friend Stassi said she regretted it too. So the message you're giving out is right now, she should qualify it, right? I think she should say, it's great, but I think it's important that she caution people. She had it at age 19. Age 19 is not cool to have a breast augmentation, right?
It's pretty young.
It's pretty young. So when someone like Kylie can really move the needle like that, I think when she sort of admits to having a procedure done, it's better to admit it and say, except, maybe I shouldn't have done it early, because when Kylie admits to it, everybody's going to go ahead and get it.
Yeah, and that's true. And so he says, Kylie Jenner moving the needle. Heck, she's also moving the scalpel. You see what I did there, folks? All right, really injecting some humor into this story. Now, look, people can do what the hell they want with their body when they turn 18, but it's like, you gotta, if I had a daughter, I would tell her just, take your time making these types of decisions and really look into why you're making them. And if it's like, the one thing people always say is, I did it for me. And it's like, okay, sure, I understand that, but shouldn't there be some pushback just to say, why did you do it for you? Was it, just saying it's, I say that with any major decision. If you're cutting your skin open for any reason whatsoever, or injecting things, or tattoos, just, take a quick lap around the block and really suss it out before you get it done. But clearly she likes them, or she would get them removed. And some people do. And in which case, just know the risks. Like you should always know about the chances of getting breast implant illness. And you might say, Dave, why are we hearing this from you? I don't know. You got to talk about these things, right? If I was going to get calf implants, I would like to, which I'm not, because I have pretty decent calf muscles, thank you so much. I know how to jump rope. But if I were to get calf implants, I would want to know, could my body reject these? Could they rupture? Like, what are the issues? So not just because it's in the chest region, but anywhere. Okay, anyhow, don't take my advice. I'm not a doctor. All right, well, coming up next, we have Justin Baldoni and the Blake Lively. The games that are being played are unbelievable. 14 women's advocacy groups are now supporting Blake Lively. What? We'll have this story next. There is a new amicus brief in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case. We've covered several of these so far as different groups are coming forward in support of Blake Lively. Baldoni, and this is reported today by Forbes magazine, Baldoni versus Lively feud. And by the way, why the hell is Forbes magazine posting about this? Because they're as desperate as the rest of us to latch on to the celebrity story. Sorry, that's what it is. We love you, Forbes. In the Forbes Forbes 100 list, Blake Lively. We'll have to see if Ryan Reynolds is going to be in there after all the money they're spending. I'll tell you what, the lawyers, they should have the Forbes 100 list for how many lawyers have made money on celebrity clients this year. Brian Friedman should be in that list. 14 women's rights organizations co-signed an amicus curiae brief in support of Blake Lively's lawsuit against It Ends With Us director and co-star Justin Baldoni, bringing the total number of organizations backing her harassment claims in her push to dismiss Baldoni's lawsuit against her to 19. Now, the general reason why these groups want this lawsuit dismissed is over a new law in California that has to do with getting rid of retaliation lawsuits. So they're saying Baldoni's just retaliating against her accusations and it should be dismissed, which is redonkulous, because he hasn't been found guilty of anything yet. Shouldn't he be allowed to defend himself? In the new amicus curiae brief, 14 women's groups, including the National Organization for Women in its New York City chapter, National Network to End DV, and the Coalition Against Trafficking in Women, support Lively's claims of harassment against Baldoni while accusing him of using the DARVO tactic, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender, to smear and silence Lively. Lively's legal team has portrayed Baldoni, who has advocated for women throughout his career, including a viral TED Talk in 2017, as turning his back on his feminist beliefs. Baldoni is now contradicting years of his own public persona. Lively's legal team told Forbes in a statement citing Baldoni's legal team's attempts to challenge the amicus briefs. So apparently they want us all to live in a world where you can just let somebody make claims about you, and if they happen to be claims of the sort of sexual harassment type, you're just supposed to take it on the chin? I think that's what they're saying here. His lawyer said in the legal filing, Lively's counsel informed them she has requested to withdraw her claims of emotional distress. So the last couple of days, Baldoni's side has gotten good PR as, she got rid of a major claim, which is that she suffered from emotional distress. Baldoni's lawyers also said in their letter to the judge they opposed Lively's request to withdraw her emotional distress claim without prejudice, which means she can refile the claim at a later time. So again, this is stuff. So this week, he kind of won that headline by saying, all right, it looks like she's not going to stand by the claims she made, and they've got the whole timeline of events. But this is terrible press for Justin Baldoni if you're just a casual viewer. Blake Lively slams Justin Baldoni for abandoning his message of listening to women. And you might argue, Baldoni's listening to women. He's listening to his wife, who's saying, you better sue that mother effer. Because she made up all these claims. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing a pretty wild story about a psychologist who believes Blake Lively may have fallen in love with Justin Baldoni. Now, listen, I'm the type who says you got to believe people when they come forward. You got to believe people, but then you just believe them, and then you just say, okay, but let's just go through the evidence. It's like if you wanted to get a loan out, right, from a bank. Say, I want to get $1 million out. I've got funds. I make all this money. The bank says, okay, I believe you. I believe you. Show me your tax info. Show me your bank account. Show me your equity. Show me your whatever you got to show to get that. I believe you, but let's just see the proof there before I hand you all this money. Let's see the proof of what Blake Lively claims has happened. Well, so far, some of those claims she is now retracting. And she says, well, it's to streamline the process. And it's like, really? Are you really worried about streamlining the process? And it's like it's like if you've been accused of mansplaining and then you can't defend yourself because any defense against mansplaining will sound like I'm not a mansplainer. The problem, and okay, here he goes again. And it's like she's saying, wow, you did all these TED Talks about being this great guy, and now you're coming after me? And he's like, well, what are you talking about? I got to defend myself. He'll never get another chance to have, his employment as an actor in this industry if any of this is true. So he wants to defend himself. Blake slamming Justin. She said 19 leading survivors and organizations devoted to women's rights, children's rights, and DV have signed on to 4 separate briefs. The statements noted that the latest briefs, which have been filed by Child USA and Sanctuary for Families, added to the voices of renowned nonprofits, victims advocates, and experts from around the world who are dedicated to safeguarding safeguarding the rights and well-being of people who speak up. So the big question is, why are they all coordinating around Blake Lively? It kind of reminds me of back in the day when Bernie Sanders was running against Hillary Clinton in the Democratic primary. Everybody kind of, it happened with Joe Biden too, where all of the primary contestants all dropped out so they could back first Hillary Clinton and then Joe Biden. And they were doing that because they were all secretly part of the game that was saying, well, I'll give you a position in the cabinet if you drop out now, but you have to. So the DNC was colluding very much so against Bernie Sanders, a populist candidate who is now considered the face of the Democratic Party, even though he's an independent. He's so good as an independent that even he is the face of the Democratic Party because he speaks truth to power. He puts his money where his mouth is, and he, has been fighting for victims for the better part of his life, right? So anyway, I say all that because it's the same thing. Right here, you see all these groups coming together to support Blake Lively, and you're going, what's happening behind the scenes to make this happen? And it could be that those groups need money. And it could be that there are some of these groups that are tied to different lawyers that have done pro bono work for them, or there's money being promised. I mean, you have to imagine these groups, they could use $100,000 check. So imagine if you think, well, if I support Blake Lively, I might get some of that Mint Mobile money. I might get some of that Wrexham money. I might get some of that, aviation gin money. That Deadpool, whatever, you get the point. That Gossip Girl residual money. And you might say, Dave, that's such a cynical way to think. And it's like, well, on the facts, if they believe what they're doing is right, supporting a victim, then that makes sense. But have they not read the information? Are they that sure that she's the victim because she has a certain chromosome and because she's the woman and he's the man? And the reason why this pushes back in some ways the feminist movement is because if they're all just going to side with her, they're almost watering down real victims that come forward with real evidence. And you might say, Dave, but she is a real victim. And I say, oh, okay. We just haven't seen that evidence. You see real victims when you're looking at the Diddy trial. You see security camera footage, just horrifying. You see real victims. And of course, you could be a victim of a workplace issue that's far less aggressive than the Diddy thing and actually be a victim. But in this case, you got to at least show up with some evidence. Text messages to Ryan Reynolds, text messages to her agent, text messages to somebody claiming, oh my gosh, he's crossing the line, he's doing all these crazy things. And we just haven't seen that. We've seen months later reevaluating what happened and bending the truth. And so here's what she has to say. Rather than defend his case on the facts, Baldoni is now contradicting years of his own personal public persona, abandoning the message of his Me Too, YouTube's podcast, TED Talks, and interviews, where he once upon a time urged men to listen to the women in your life, to hold their anguish and actually believe them, even if what they're saying is against you. These women in organizations are sounding the alarm about his Darvo tactics and the chilling effect they could have well beyond this case. My bigger concern is that people will, and I don't have, this isn't a giant concern because I still exist in the world where I think we have critical thinking skills and you can look at every situation independent of each other and look at the evidence. Like this case, right? People hated Baldoni because of her claims, and then when her claims didn't follow up with evidence, people changed their mind. So I don't think this is going to hurt the movement for believing people. Perpetrators use defamation suits to deny their own liability, discredit survivors of violence, and reverse the narrative to cast themselves as the real victims. This smear tactic comes at a real cost to victims who mustered the enormous courage to require to report their abusers in the first instance. If the use of Darvo tactics in defamation lawsuits is allowed to continue unchecked, embroiling victims in costly and drawn-out litigation proceedings that force them to relive their trauma, it will embolden perpetrators and contribute to a culture of silence. This will impact survivors from all socioeconomic backgrounds, including those with the least means to defend themselves, as well as the most high-powered celebrities. I agree with the stance that you shouldn't be allowed to use lawsuits as retaliation, but you have to prove that he committed these crimes first. That's where I stand on that. All right, let's move it along here. So tomorrow we'll cover this psychiatrist who claims Blake Lively began to fall for Justin Baldoni, which I think will be a pretty interesting story. But in the meantime, I wanted to cover this Wayne Gretzky story. It's just a fun one to end on today. Wayne Gretzky, he learns who Chapel Roan is on air. I love when old people find out about young people things. Have a listen.
Fans had Dreisaitl's head superimposed on the Pink Pony Club. I don't know how the song came to be. It's kind of like Jobu, where it's maybe
is that right?
Kind of a secret inside the locker room. I don't know how the whole thing sparked and began, but they seem to be rallying around it and enjoying it.
But no one's giving details.
Nobody yet. That's why I was trying to ask a few questions about it.
Pink Pony, is that a band or is that a song?
It's a woman. She sings a song, Pink.
Is Pink Pony, is it a band? Do they, are they on tour? This club of pink ponies? And then the guy goes, no, Pink Pony Club is a woman. No, you're both wrong.
Pony Club, and it's famous. It's on the radio. And,
Canadian? American?
I think it's an American girl, but all of a sudden it popped off. I believe she won a few Grammys, and now they're rocking it in the locker room.
She won one Grammy, but either way, at least he got that she won a Grammy. And I guess the NHL has finally learned about culture, and they're playing Pink Pony Club. Look, I got to tell you, Pink Pony Club, specifically during Pride Month, should be uniting us all. We should all strive to be in the Pink Pony Club. The Pink Pony Club lets everybody in, from grandfathers to babies. It is not gender specific. It is a color we can all enjoy. So after this episode's over, get out there and do a little dance to the Pink Pony Club, as the boomers, God bless you all, have learned. And I know I'm going to get comments, I'm a boomer and I've been listening to Pink Pony Club since... Okay, I get it. I understand. Don't take offense. These boomers take offense to everything. You get that? Now you can't complain, or else you'll prove me right. All right. You can go check out Reality Steve's podcast if you want to listen to my roast of him. I'll play a minute for you here. A minute of my roast of Reality Steve. The audio came out pretty good. The audience isn't mic'd, but I think it was a good set. Have a listen.
Like, I've never been roasted before. You've never been on Reddit. I met Steve during the pandemic, and it was a really tough time for me trying to get through his podcast. He loves to gamble. That's why we're here in Vegas. Steve loves to gamble. He really rolled the dice with Olive Garden, got a lifetime loyalty card and type 2 diabetes.
It's true.
Steve loves Olive Garden. It's just like The Bachelor. It's a declining franchise that makes you sick to your stomach, right? Nah, Steve does have a lot in common with The Bachelor. They've both been canceled. What's retreating faster, the Bachelor fan base or your hairline? Which...
All right, I'll take a groan, and there's some more, so you can go listen to the full set there on Reality Steve's Thursday podcast. And listen, I went to his fan appreciation, and I got to say, it was amazing how many people came up to me and told me that they've found my podcast through Reality Steve. He's been such a good friend, and it was really cool to get to roast him and hang and see all the other folks that came out, plenty of which are in the Patreon and support us in different ways. So thanks again to everyone out there who's been a member of the Pink Pony Club. We need a name that's as iconic as the Pink Pony Club for our community. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. All right, well, that wraps it up for us today. But boy, we're going to hit the ground running tomorrow. I shared, for those that are still listening, I shared a lot of tea about Bachelor in Paradise. I shared a massive spoiler on today's Patreon. So if you want to know what that is, patreon.com/Dave Neal. I had my son Augie with me, and I was just shooting the you-know-what with the audience and massive spoilers to, just to keep you guys fed as we wait for the new season. All right, we'll see you in the morning. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a nice review. Share us with your friends. Until then, I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.